People say that life softens after 60, but mine sharpened like broken glass. The day it all began was supposed to be a celebration, my retirement after 35 years at Crestline Insurance. My coworkers gathered in the break room around a grocery store cake with my name spelled wrong. Mara turned into Mara. I didn't correct it. I never corrected anything. Everyone said the same predictable lines, "You'll love retirement. At last, time to relax." They meant well, but it felt like they were telling me, "Your usefulness has expired." Evan didn't come. He sent a text at 1:58 p.m. "Sorry mom, busy, big client meeting." Congrats. I read it twice, then slid my phone back into my purse like it burned. When I reached my small second-floor apartment, the silence met me at the door like a familiar companion. The thrift store sofa, the wooden table with a water ring I could never scrub out, the faded curtains, they all stared back, waiting for the next routine day of my uneventful life. I made tea, sat at the kitchen table, and let the afternoon sun settle on my face. 60 years old. High school graduate. Single mother. Survivor of a marriage that drained the color out of everything. That was who I was on paper. But there had been a whisper inside me for decades, a quiet, persistent tug I'd buried so deeply I almost forgot it existed. Writing. As a girl, I scribbled stories in the margins of school notebooks. My English teacher once told me, "Mara, you see the world differently. You write like someone who has something to say." My ex-husband never agreed. "You? Write a book?" he laughed once. "You can barely finish a magazine article." I believed him. 4 years. But that afternoon, staring at the dust floating in the sunlight, something in me shifted. Maybe it was the loneliness. Maybe it was turning 60. Maybe it was Evan's absence. Maybe it was the growing realization that no one was coming to save me from my own small life. So I stood up, walked to the counter, and opened the laptop I'd bought just to stay connected. The blank document glowed back at me, empty, terrifying, promising. I typed one sentence. Then another. Then another, awkward, clumsy, nothing like the polished novels I devoured. But they were mine. My own hesitant breaths on a page. Hours passed. I didn't notice until the room darkened. When I finally stopped, I had 3 shaky pages and a question pulsing through my chest. What if this was the beginning of something I was never allowed to dream about? I didn't know it then, but those 3 imperfect pages would lead me into a world my own son didn't believe I belonged in, until the day he humiliated me in front of 200 people, and everything changed. The next morning, I woke up before the sun, a strange excitement buzzing in my fingertips. I made coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, and opened the document I'd created the night before. The writing was rough. Crooked sentences, mismatched thoughts, descriptions that didn't quite land. But they were still mine. So I added a 4th page. And a 5th. The story began to take shape around a woman named Lena Ward, 62, sharp-eyed and underestimated by everyone around her. Lena was everything I wanted to be, confident, curious, unafraid to take up space. 6 months later, I had a full manuscript. 241 pages. I stared at the final line with trembling hands. I did something I had never believed myself capable of. But once the high faded, doubt crept back like a shadow. What now? You can't walk into a bookstore and hand someone a stack of paper. There were agents, query letters, submission guidelines, an entire universe I understood as well as rocket engineering. Still, I researched obsessively. I read articles about querying until my eyes burned. I rewrote my letter 12 times. Finally, I sent my first query. Then 14 more. I tried not to think about them, but each time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted. 2 weeks later, while washing dishes, the first reply came. "Thank you for your submission, but this is not a fit for us." My hand stilled in the soapy water. The words blurred. My chest ached. It felt like someone had tapped me on the shoulder only to turn away laughing. That evening, Evan called. I told him about the rejection. Mom. I don't want to be harsh, but maybe this is the universe suggesting something. Publishing wants fresh voices. Young voices. He paused. Have you considered something more age-appropriate? Maybe a book club or volunteering? My throat tightened. Mrs. Harland, my teacher, once told me I had talent. When you were 16, he replied gently, like explaining something obvious. That was a lifetime ago. He changed the subject to his recent promotion, big clients, big deals, big money. I murmured congratulations. He barely asked about my writing again. More rejections arrived. 5. 10. 15. Each one carved another bruise inside me. One night, after rejection number 20, I hovered my mouse over my manuscript file, ready to delete the entire thing. Then a new email appeared. Full manuscript request, the subject read. A small press. A real one. They wanted to read everything. My hand shook as I attached the file. For the first time in months, hope didn't feel foolish. If only I knew that this little press was just the beginning, and that my son would one day question whether my success was even real. Greencrest House replied exactly 9 weeks later. I was folding laundry when the email preview appeared on my phone. We would like to offer you a publishing contract for your manuscript. My knees nearly gave out. I sat on the edge of my bed, rereading the words until they blurred. A real publisher, small, modest, but real, wanted my book. They wanted Lena Ward. They wanted me. I called Evan, my voice trembling. They want to publish it, I said. A real press. A contract. Printed copies. Silence. Then, wait, Greencrest? Are you sure they're not a scam? My excitement faltered. No, they're legitimate. I checked. Mom, there are tons of scams targeting older writers. Did they ask for money? What's the advance? $500? 1,000? His tone softened, not kinder, just patronizing. Listen, I'm being realistic. Small presses don't earn real money. You're not quitting your day job for this, right? My throat tightened. I just want to share the news with you. Yeah, and I'm happy for you. I just don't want you getting your hopes too high. He chuckled. I mean, it's not like this will become a career. The laugh landed like a slap. But I didn't argue. I never argued. Instead, I hung up and signed the contract that evening. Greencrest offered 10 printed copies, a modest release, and a marketing push that was basically just tell friends and family. I didn't care. Holding that first paperback weeks later, my name on the cover, or at least R.L. Rowan, felt like touching a miracle with my own hands. The first week, nothing happened. I checked my book's online ranking every hour. It barely moved. Then a single review appeared. Finally, a heroine my age who isn't treated like wallpaper. I read it over and over until my vision blurred. Someone out there, someone real, liked my story. So I opened a new document, Book 2. This one flowed faster. 4 months later, Lena Ward was back solving another mystery, sharper and bolder. By the time I was halfway through the manuscript, sales for Book 1 had doubled. Reviews trickled in, women thanking me for writing a character who wasn't 25 and invincible, but 62 and brilliant. One afternoon, while drafting Chapter 14, I received an email from Vera Lang, a New York literary agent whose client list looked like a bookstore shelf. Your sales pattern interests me, she wrote. These books are speaking to an overlooked audience. I'd like to represent your future work. I read the email 3 times. A real agent. A powerful one. Interested in me. I felt breathless. I didn't know it yet, but signing with Vera would put me on a collision course with success so big, even my own son would struggle to believe it came from me. Vera Lang didn't waste time. 2 days after her email, she called me directly. Her voice was sharp, confident, the kind that belonged to people accustomed to being listened to. Mara, she said, your work has something the market is starving for, women over 50 who aren't just background characters. Lena Ward is timely and fresh. If you stay consistent, you can become a serious name in the mystery world. I almost dropped the phone. A name? I whispered. A brand, she corrected. We're going to grow you. For the first time in decades, someone spoke to me as if I had value beyond being a mother or an aging retiree. Dara walked me through royalty structures, contract clauses, rights ownership, and things I had never known existed. She said words like potential, trajectory, and market positioning, as if they naturally belonged next to my name. She helped me negotiate a better deal for Book 2. A bigger print run. Real marketing. A small signing event at a local bookstore. It wasn't glamorous, but it was progress. Evan came for dinner the week my second contract arrived. I was typing when he walked in, and he glanced at my laptop with a half smile. Still writing? That's nice, Mom. Keeps you busy. Busy. Like a hobby. Like knitting scarves for the winter. I signed a new publishing contract, I told him. Book 2 is coming out in a few months. That's great, he said, already pulling a beer from my fridge. Anyway, guess what? I'm getting a corner office soon. Promotion's practically guaranteed. I listened, smiled, nodded. His success mattered to him, and because it mattered to him, it mattered to me. But a tiny part of me wondered when he'd ask a question about my work that wasn't surface level. When he would stop seeing it as something to fill my time. 3 months later, Book 2 released. Sales jumped immediately, faster, higher than the first. Readers posted photos of themselves holding my book. Book clubs emailed me. Older women wrote long, heartfelt messages about how Lena made them feel seen. One message came from a widow in her 60s, your book saved me from feeling invisible. I cried reading it. I forwarded it to Evan. His response came hours later. That's sweet. People online are so nice. Nice. Not moved, not changed, not connected. Just nice. Still, I kept writing. Then, one afternoon, Dara called with news that made my heart race. Mara, Book 3 needs to be your strongest. I'm about to pitch you to a major publisher. If this lands, your career will jump 10 levels at once. A major publisher. A real shot at something big. I agreed, trembling with excitement. But while my world was quietly rising, I had no idea that Evan's world, and his pride, would soon collide with mine in ways neither of us were ready for. Book 3 poured out of me like something waiting decades to be born. Lena Ward was older now, sharper, dealing with shadows from her past. Writing her felt like peeling back layers of myself, fear, strength, quiet resilience. It was the hardest book I'd written, and also the truest. Vera guided every step with a firm but steady hand. Make Lena complex, she said. Make her unforgettable. Publishers want a character they can build a brand around. So I revised every chapter until I could almost hear Lena breathing beside me. When the manuscript was finished, Vera sent it to a larger publisher, Northbridge and Company, a name I'd only seen on best-selling shelves. Weeks crawled by. I tried distracting myself with cooking, cleaning, even reorganizing the linen closet, but every buzz from my phone made my heart stutter. Then the call came. Mara, Vera said, they want it. Northbridge wants Book 3. A full campaign, national distribution, bookstore placements, airport kiosks, the works. I sank into my chair, breathless. Are you sure? They're offering a real advance. Meaningful money. They think Lena Ward can be a long-term series. I thanked her through tears. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. Not as a mother. Not as a polite retiree. But as a writer with worth. That night I called Evan. Northbridge is publishing Book 3, I said. Dara thinks it might even chart on a national list. That's nice, Mom. He sounded distracted, typing in the background. Anyway, Jess and I have news, we're getting married. We're doing a courthouse ceremony. Small. Simple. That's wonderful, I said, swallowing the sting. Maybe we could plan something small afterward? A dinner? Probably not, he cut in gently. Jess isn't into big things. We really want to keep it close. Close. Meaning not including me. The wedding took place on a Tuesday. I sat quietly in a corner of the courthouse chapel while Jessica's family filled the room with chatter. Afterward, at dinner, Jessica introduced me to her sister. This is Evan's mom. She writes books as a hobby. A hobby. I opened my mouth to correct her, but Evan didn't. He was laughing with his father-in-law about client accounts. To them, I was the woman who cooked lasagna on Tuesdays and kept herself occupied. I left early, claiming a headache. But success has a strange way of arriving right when you feel the smallest. 2 weeks later, Book 3 released, and for the first time, my name, well, R.L. Rowan, broke into the USA Today bestseller list. When I stared at the ranking, number 18, I felt something ignite inside me. I wasn't invisible. Not anymore. What I didn't know was that this rising fame would soon clash with Evan's world, and the fallout would unfold on the most humiliating night of my life. The success of Book 3 changed everything, and nothing. Emails poured in from readers across the country. Women in their 50s, 60s, 70s wrote to me about grief, loneliness, reinvention. Lena Ward had become a mirror for them, a woman who refused to disappear. I answered every message. Every single one. Book 4 followed faster than I expected. I wrote with more certainty, more conviction. My publisher doubled the first print run. Foreign rights sold in 8 countries. Audiobook producers reached out. Financially, my life transformed. For the first time, bills didn't terrify me. I bought fresh groceries without checking every price. When my old car groaned on cold mornings, I didn't panic, I simply took it to a mechanic and said, do whatever it needs. But none of this reached Evan, not truly. Not in a way that mattered. Every Tuesday, he came for dinner, and our conversations always followed the same script: Evan's job, his new clients, his bonuses, his corporate ladder. My books, so cool, so nice, glad you're keeping busy. One evening, after finishing edits for Book 4, I received an email from Vera. Mara, your pace is remarkable. Northbridge wants Book 5 on a tight schedule. They believe the momentum is building towards something major. I felt pride swell in my chest. Writing had become my world. My real work. But just as my career accelerated, Evan's demands found me again. His call came late on a Wednesday afternoon. Hey Mom, you free? I need a big favor. I clicked save on my manuscript draft. What kind of favor? The firm's annual charity gala is coming up. I'm running the whole thing this year, huge responsibility. Big clients. Senior partners. This could put me on track for director. He exhaled sharply. I'm drowning. Jess is swamped with a campaign, and I remembered how organized you are. Could you help with, well, everything? Everything? I repeated. Yeah. Vendor calls, seating charts, coordinating the program, day of logistics. You're home most days, and writing is flexible, right? You always said you like helping. I stared at my laptop. Book 5's deadline was in 8 weeks. Vera had warned me these months were critical. I have deadlines, Evan. And meetings. It's not as flexible as you think. Mom, he said, softening his tone, please. This gala is huge for me. You're amazing at this stuff. It would take you 3 weeks, tops. 3 weeks. 3 weeks away from the manuscript that could elevate my entire career. I hesitated. And then, the old habit, the old ache, I said. All right. I'll help. he sighed with relief, already rattling off tasks. When the call ended, I stared at my half-finished chapter, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat I'd just abandoned. I didn't know it then, but choosing Evan's gala over my deadline would cost me more than lost pages. It would shake the foundation of everything I'd built. The next 3 weeks became a blur of spreadsheets, phone calls, and long drives across the city. I handled everything: venue coordination, decor approvals, menu adjustments, vendor contracts, and the ever-changing seating chart Evan kept tweaking at midnight. Every morning, Book 5 waited for me on my laptop. Every night, I was too exhausted to touch it. Dara called halfway through week 2. "Mara, you've rescheduled our last 3 meetings," she said gently but firmly. "We have publishers waiting. This window won't stay open forever." "I know. I'm helping Evan with something. Just a few more days." "Mara," she said quietly, "your career is shifting. Don't lose your momentum." I wanted to tell her I understood. I wanted to tell her I valued myself enough to say no to my son. But the words stuck. The weight of decades of mothering, of always being the one who filled the gaps, pressed down on me. 3 more weeks, I whispered. Then I'm fully back." Dara sighed, the tired, knowing kind of sigh. "All right. But be careful what you're sacrificing." Later that afternoon, while I was finalizing floral arrangements, Jessica showed up at my apartment. She let herself in without knocking, dropped her purse on my counter, and leaned against the doorway watching me. "Still working on the gala?" she asked. "Yes," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "Just making sure everything runs smoothly." "That's great. I mean, you're home most days anyway, right? And writing doesn't exactly require office hours." She said it with a smile, sweet, practiced, dismissive. My hand tightened around the pen. "I have deadlines, Jessica. Real ones." "Oh, of course," she replied lightly. "But this gala is important for Evan. You helping means the world. Especially since his job is, real work. Real work. Not writing 4 books. Not hitting bestseller lists. Not earning more than I ever had in my life. Real work." She left before I could respond. That night, Evan called as I tried to force out a single paragraph of my manuscript. "Mom, the seating chart's wrong again. The Carter family can't sit near the DeLevens, they had some nasty legal battle years ago. Can you fix it?" "Evan, can this wait until tomorrow?" "I'm trying to write." "Mom," he said gently but firmly, "this will take you 10 minutes. I really need it tonight. Not a request. An expectation." "I'll do it," I whispered. "Thanks, Mom. You're a lifesaver." When I hung up, I stared at the manuscript for a long time. The cursor blinked like a quiet accusation. I shut the laptop without typing a single new word. The next morning, my publisher emailed, "Are you still on track for your deadline?" I lied. Yes. I thought the gala would simply delay my writing, but I didn't know it was pushing me straight toward the night that would shatter and expose everything, right in front of 200 strangers. 1 week before the gala, I spent nearly 9 hours at the venue, checking lighting placement, confirming the stage layout, reviewing the audio setup, labeling tables, and meeting the catering team to finalize every detail down to the garnish on the salad. By the time I drove home, the sky was dark and my body ached. Still, I opened my laptop, determined to reclaim a few pages of Book 5. But the words wouldn't come. My mind wasn't in Lena Ward's world. It was in seating charts and vendor invoices and dietary restrictions. I typed 1 sentence. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. The spark, the fire, the rhythm I'd worked so hard to build, it was slipping through my fingers. As if on cue, my phone rang. "Evan." I answered with a strained voice. "Hi, sweetheart." "Mom, where are you?" "The venue coordinator said you left early." "Evan, I was there all day. I needed to rest." Well, the projector setup needs reviewing. And the valet company needs final confirmation. Can you handle that tonight? It's just a couple of calls. Tonight. After 9 hours of labor. After missing an entire day of writing. After lying to my publisher about being on track. I'll handle it, I said softly, because the old reflex still lived in me. He sighed in relief. You're the best. Seriously, I couldn't do this without you. He hung up before I could respond. I stared at my blank manuscript page, the cursor blinking, waiting, almost pleading. I closed the laptop. The next day, while checking the delivery of table centerpieces, I overheard voices echoing in the hallway. Evan and Jessica. I didn't mean to listen. But her words drifted toward me like a cold wind. At least your mom has something now, Jessica was saying. Remember when she was, well, kind of nothing? This writing hobby gives her purpose. Nothing. Hobby. Purpose, like I'd been lost and needed rescuing. Evan said something back, but I couldn't hear it over the ringing in my ears. For years, I had been small to make room for him. For his ambitions. For his ego. For his version of success. But hearing the word nothing felt like someone had cracked my ribs open. I drove home in silence, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. That night, my manuscript sat untouched. Chapter 12 waited, unfinished, unformed, slipping away from me day by day. I looked at the calendar. 3 days until the gala. 3 days until I could return to my work, my world, my identity. I told myself I could endure 3 more days. 3 more days before I took my life back. Before I set boundaries. Before I remembered who I was becoming. But I couldn't have predicted that on the night of the gala, the night I thought would be a simple conclusion, the most humiliating moment of my life would unfold, with my own son holding the microphone. The night of the gala arrived with the kind of polished luxury I had spent 3 exhausting weeks assembling. Crystal chandeliers glowed like floating stars, white linen swept elegantly across tables, and each centerpiece of white lilies and eucalyptus stood exactly where I'd directed the florist to place them. Guests streamed in, investors, CEOs, board members, attorneys, philanthropists, all dressed in tuxedos and glittering gowns. Laughter bounced off marble floors, champagne glasses clinked, and everything looked flawless. Exactly as Evan wanted. Exactly as I had delivered. I arrived early, wearing my simple black dress, tasteful, modest, unremarkable. Evan, in his tailored tuxedo, looked like he belonged among the elite. Jessica clung to his arm in a shimmering silver gown, smiling proudly as though the entire event were the result of her efforts. When Evan saw me, he kissed my cheek. Mom, this is perfect. You nailed it. For a moment, his praise warmed me. For a moment, I felt seen. Then Jessica's eyes slid over my outfit, her smile tightening. You look nice, she said, in a tone that meant plain, out of place, forgettable. I found my seat, table 14. Far from Evan. Far from the partners. Far from the spotlight. But I didn't complain. I had learned long ago how to fold my discomfort neatly and hide it under polite smiles. Dinner went smoothly. The silent auction raised thousands. Evan worked the room flawlessly, shaking hands, telling jokes, charming potential donors. I watched him with a mixture of pride and a faint ache of distance. He was brilliant, ambitious, polished, and a stranger to the woman I had become. After dessert, the live auction began. A luxury trip to Aspen sold for $42,000. A private cooking class with a celebrity chef went for $18,000. A rare wine collection hit $30,000. The room buzzed with excitement, the kind that only wealthy generosity creates. Then Evan stepped up to the stage, microphone in hand, his confidence sharp as a blade. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, grinning, I have one last surprise item for our final auction tonight. My stomach tightened. Something in his tone, playful, cocky, unthinking, made the hairs on my neck rise. He swept an arm toward the crowd. I'm auctioning off a private lunch with my wonderful mother. Laughter rippled. Some amused. Some uncertain. I froze. Evan continued, still smiling as if this were charming, heartwarming, funny. She spends most days writing her little mystery novels, he added lightly. So hey, maybe she'll even put you in one. Little novels. A joke. A punchline. The room went quiet. Then Evan said it. Starting bid, $1. A single dollar. For me. Heat crawled up my neck. Several guests shifted awkwardly, others avoided looking at me altogether. I sat still, hands folded, face neutral, humiliation crawling beneath my skin like fire. No one spoke. No one bid. Not one person. 10 seconds stretched like a lifetime. Then, a voice from the back of the room called out, steady and unmistakable. $1 million. Gasps erupted across the ballroom. Heads turned. Evan's smile collapsed into shock. A man in a dark suit began walking forward, eyes fixed on me. And when he reached the center of the room, I realized this stranger wasn't here for lunch, he was here because he knew exactly who I was, and what my son didn't. Adrian Cole, tall, composed, carrying the quiet confidence of someone who makes million-dollar decisions before breakfast, stopped in the center of the ballroom. Every eye in the room followed him like he was stepping out of a movie scene. He faced the stage. I said $1 million, he repeated, voice clear. For a meeting with Mara Ellison, or, as the literary world knows her, R.L. Rowan. Whispers exploded. R.L. Rowan? Lena Ward's author? Oh my God, I love those books, I didn't know she lived here. Jessica's mouth fell open. Evan's face drained of all color. Adrian turned toward me. Ms. Ellison, I've been trying to reach you for 2 months. Your agent mentioned you were tied up with a family obligation. He offered a courteous smile. I took a chance you'd be here tonight. The entire ballroom leaned in, breath held. We want to adapt the Lena Ward series, he continued. A full-scale streaming deal. Multiple seasons. Global release. The offer is already on Vera Lang's desk. But we need your approval to move forward. My heart pounded. My stomach twisted. For a moment, I could barely breathe. Adrian looked at the auctioneer. And I assume this $1 million bid counts as our donation? The auctioneer nodded vigorously. Highest donation of the night. Applause shook the room. People rose from their seats. Women approached me, asking for photos, thanking me for Lena Ward, praising my writing. I felt seen, truly seen, for the first time in my life. Evan descended from the stage slowly, like the floor might vanish beneath him. He reached me just as Adrian finished speaking with Vera on the phone. Mom, Evan whispered, voice cracking, why didn't you tell me all this? I looked at him, his shock, his confusion, his regret. You never asked, I said softly. And when I tried, you didn't listen. He swallowed hard, eyes glistening. Jessica hovered behind him, pale and silent, no witty remarks left in her. Mr. Carter, one of the senior partners, approached Evan with a firm expression. We'll talk Monday, he said. About professionalism. And respect. Then he turned to me with a warm smile. My wife adores your books, Ms. Ellison. You're remarkable. When he walked away, Evan finally broke. Mom. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I thought writing was just something to keep you busy. His voice shook. I didn't know you were, you. I touched his arm gently. I love you, Evan. But from now on, you must see me as more than your mother. I have a life. I have work. I have purpose. He nodded, tears forming. I'll do better. I promise. Later, outside under the cool night air, Adrian and I discussed casting, contracts, timelines. But my mind kept returning to the ballroom, to the moment my world shifted. Not because I became successful, but because I finally chose myself. And now I wonder, was Evan's apology enough? Or should I have demanded even stronger boundaries after a lifetime of being dismissed? Tell me, what would you have done?